I worked security at a parking garage for 11 months before I understood what I was actually guarding. I want to say that clearly, right at the start, because you're going to think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. I still have some of the footage saved on an old hard drive I never got around to deleting. The garage had 3 floors: ground level, level 2, level 3 roof. That's what the blueprint said, laminated and yellow, hanging in my guard booth. The elevator had 4 buttons. I noticed it my second week: ground, 2, 3, and a 4th button with no number printed on it at all. Just blank plastic, slightly duller than the others, like it had been pressed a lot over the years by people who had no reason to press it. I asked the day guy, Rico, about it when he clocked out. Broken button, he said. Don't press it. Maintenance never fixed it. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? 3 weeks later, at 2:47 in the morning, I was walking my route on level 2 when I heard the elevator ding behind me. I hadn't called it. I'd swept every floor myself 20 minutes earlier and logged 0 cars, 0 people. The doors opened. Empty. I checked the little screen above the doors that shows which floor the car is coming from. It said 4. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds, just staring at that number. Then I told myself it glitched. Old building, old wiring. I wrote it in my log as an elevator malfunction and kept walking. 2 nights later, reviewing footage, I saw myself on the level 2 camera walking my normal route. Behind me, in the stairwell doorway, there was a shape for exactly 4 seconds, not the shape of a person. Too tall, too still, gone by the 5th second. I rewound it 11 times. My hands were shaking by the 8th. I didn't report it. This job paid my rent. I needed the paycheck more than I needed to believe myself. So I kept working, and the 4th floor kept calling the elevator down. Here's the part I didn't know yet, the part that changes everything. There had been a guard before me. His name was on an old shift schedule I found taped inside a supply closet, half covered by newer sheets. Same job, same hours. His name was crossed out with a single word written beside it in pen: quit. No last day listed. No handover notes. Guards usually leave a note for whoever takes over. Parking codes, which cameras glitch, which doors stick. There was nothing from him. Just his name, crossed out like someone wanted the record closed fast. I asked Rico about him once. Rico got quiet and said the guy stopped showing up one week, never came back for his final paycheck. Happens, Rico said. Night shift burns people out. I wanted to believe that too. The footsteps started the following month. Not on level 2 or level 3, above level 3, on the roof stairwell where there is nothing above but sky. I heard them 3 separate nights. Slow. Deliberate. Like someone taking their time because they knew I could hear them and wanted me to. I asked the building owner directly if there was a 4th floor. He got very still and said the building was originally designed with 4 levels, but the budget got cut halfway through construction. Level 4 was never built. The old elevator programming just never got updated, he said. Ignore it. Old programming doesn't explain footsteps with no floor to stand on. The night everything changed was a Tuesday, always the quietest shift of the week. I was in the booth when the elevator dinged. I looked at the monitor. Doors opening on level 2, live feed. Empty car. Screen reads, descending from 4. Right as the doors began to close again, a hand reached out and stopped them. Gray-white, fingers too long. And as the doors shuttered back open, something small dropped out onto the concrete and rolled toward the camera. A plastic name badge, cracked down the middle, clipped the way our uniforms clip them. I paused the footage and zoomed in. The name on the badge was the guard from the shift schedule. The one who supposedly quit and never came back for his check. I did not stay to see anything else. I grabbed my keys and radio and left my post for the first time in 11 months. I sat in my car outside until the sun came up. I quit the next day. No notice. No final check, either. I understand that now, in a way I didn't before. 3 months later, I ran into Rico at a gas station. He'd left the job 2 weeks after I did. I asked him why. He said, "You saw the badge too, huh?" I asked what he meant by too. He told me something the owner never mentioned. In the 9 years the garage had been open, 4 guards had quit without notice on that shift. 4. Every single one of them left behind their final paycheck, uncollected, sitting in an envelope in the office drawer. Nobody had ever asked where those 4 people actually went. I don't work night shifts anymore. But sometimes, in any parking garage, in any city, I check the elevator buttons. I count them. I make sure every single one has a number. So tell me, if you found a schedule with a crossed out name and no handover notes, would you have kept working that shift? Or would you have walked out the same night I should have? Tell me in the comments. I want to know how many of you would have stayed. I've been an intensive care night nurse for 6 years. You get used to strange things in a hospital after dark. What happened with room 217 is not one of those normal strange things. I've never been able to explain it, and I stopped trying about a year ago. Room 217 wasn't supposed to be occupied. I checked the census board myself at the start of my shift. Every room, every patient, every bed status. 217 was listed as empty, awaiting cleaning. At 1:14 in the morning, the monitor for that room activated on our central wall. Understand what that means. These monitors don't turn on by themselves. Someone has to attach the leads, clip the sensor to a finger, power the unit by hand. I watched the screen for 217 light up and start displaying numbers as if a living person were lying in that bed. Heart rate 61, blood pressure 118/76. Oxygen 97%. I walked down. The door was closed, which was already strange because housekeeping always leaves empty rooms open. I opened it. The bed was made, untouched. But the monitor beside it glowed in the dark, wires running to nowhere, blinking those same steady numbers into an empty room. I unplugged it and charted the incident as a technical fault. I told myself that was the end of it. The following night, at 1:14 exactly, it happened again. Same room. Same numbers. I called our on-call technician, who checked the system remotely and told me 217 showed as offline, meaning, officially, that monitor wasn't even connected to anything, anywhere, on our network. I was looking directly at it. Live numbers. A heartbeat that, according to the hospital's own records, did not exist. I brought another nurse, Dana, with me the next time. We opened the door together. Empty bed. Glowing monitor. But this time the numbers were climbing. 74, then 88, then 102, the way a real heart climbs when someone is afraid. Dana reached to disconnect it and stopped. On top of the sheets sat a fresh IV catheter, taped down, a small bead of blood still wet at the insertion site. No patient, no arm. Just tape and a needle on sheets that were supposedly clean and never used. We left, locked the door, and told our charge nurse everything, expecting her to laugh at us. She didn't. Her face went pale, and she asked what time it happened. When we told her, she only said, "That was Marcus's room," and walked away without explaining further. It took me almost 2 weeks of quiet questions to piece the rest together, one conversation at a time, because nobody on that floor wanted to say it all at once. 4 years earlier, a nurse named Marcus had worked that unit during a night when 3 patients coded at the same time. Short-staffed, overwhelmed, he missed a critical alarm coming from 217. By the time anyone reached the room, it was too late. Marcus never came back to work after that night. Senior staff quietly stopped assigning patients to that room whenever they could help it, though nobody ever wrote that rule down anywhere official. I looked up the old admission records, ones I wasn't really supposed to access so easily. I found an entry from 4 years back, room 217, time of death, 1:14 in the morning. That was the time. Every single time the monitor turned on, I requested a transfer off nights within the month. I told my manager it was for personal reasons, which wasn't a lie, just not the whole truth. Before I left that floor for good, I pulled the maintenance log for that room's equipment out of curiosity. It listed a serial number, an install date, and a note from the biomedical engineering department. The monitor had been physically removed from the building and sent off-site for disposal 2 years earlier. It had not been in that room for 2 full years, according to every piece of paperwork that existed. It had never been in that room, on paper, at all. So tell me, if a machine that was already thrown away starts showing you a heartbeat in the middle of the night, whose heartbeat do you think that is? And would you have stayed in that room to find out, or run the way we did? Comment below. I want to know if anyone else has worked a floor with a room like this. I worked a graveyard shift at a diner off a quiet stretch of highway, the kind of place that only exists because truckers need somewhere to stop between nowhere and nowhere else. 6 months in, I thought I'd seen every kind of customer that road could produce. Then I met the regular who came in every night at exactly 3:33 in the morning. Same booth, the corner one by the window facing the door. Same order, before I even reached the table. Black coffee, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast, no butter. He never said more than that. Paid in cash, always exact, a folded 10 and a 5, and left before I could offer a refill. I didn't think much of it at first. Truckers have routines, but 3 weeks in, I noticed something that made my stomach go cold. He ordered for 2. Same items, same time, but 2 full plates and 2 cups of coffee, 1 black, 1 with cream, and he only ever touched 1. The other sat across from him, cooling, untouched, until he left it exactly like that and walked back out into the dark. I asked him once, carefully, if his friend wanted anything else. He looked at me properly for the first time in 3 weeks and said, "She's not hungry tonight." Then he went back to his food like the conversation had already ended. There was no she. The seat across from him had always been empty. I told my manager, who'd run that diner for 19 years. He shrugged and said, "That's Walt. Been coming in at 3:33 since before I owned the place." Just let him be. That answer should have satisfied me. It didn't. I started watching the parking lot on the nights he came in. No truck ever pulled up around that hour. No headlights, no engine sound. I'd look up from the register and he would simply already be sitting there, like he had walked out of the dark itself rather than off the road. One night, I asked my manager how Walt got there without a vehicle. He told me something that made the hair on my arms stand up. 19 years ago, Walt drove long haul with his wife riding along, keeping him company, keeping him awake through the night. On this exact stretch of road, something went wrong. A blown tire, black ice, nobody agrees which. The truck went off the road less than 2 miles from the diner. Walt survived. His wife didn't. He still comes in at 3:33, my manager said, because that was the time they always used to stop here on their weekly run, for years, long before the accident. Some habits don't die even when the person who built them does. I asked whether Walt was even still alive, technically. My manager went quiet and admitted, "That's the thing. Nobody's ever actually checked." That answer bothered me more than any ghost story could have, because it meant nobody had ever followed him outside. Nobody had ever asked where he went after folding those bills onto the table and walking back into the dark. So one night, I did. I watched him finish his coffee at 3:51, same as always. Watched him fold the bills, same as always. When he walked out the door, I followed at a distance, staying close to the shadow of the building. The lot was empty. No truck, no headlights. Just Walt, walking straight down the center line of the highway into the dark, getting smaller and smaller until the shape of him simply stopped being there. No flash, no sound, no door closing somewhere far off. He didn't vanish dramatically. He just became part of the night, the way fog does. I went back inside and finished my shift because I needed the job, but I never watched him leave again after that. He still comes in. Still 3:33. Still orders for 2. Last week, for the first time in 6 months, he looked up while I was clearing the next table and said 4 words I haven't been able to shake since. "You'll understand soon, Sam." He has never once asked my name. It isn't on my uniform. I have never told him. I don't know what he meant. I'm not sure I want to know. So tell me, if a regular customer knew your name without ever being told, would you keep serving him? Or would that be the night you finally walked out and never came back? Drop your answer below. I read every single one. You made it to the end, but the nightmare is not over yet. If this horror story gave you chills, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more terrifying stories, dark mysteries, and scary moments. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next nightmare waiting for you. Until then, stay alert, stay scared, and remember, some stories are better left untold.